conversing from a true place, principles of social design and improv applied to life, because, you know, we could all use some help. This talk is really about fear and safety and identity and design because they're all related and they all play a big role in everything that we do all the time. So it's important that we understand how they relate so that we can save ourselves from ourselves and be awesome. So, why me to talk about it? Only because I have been perpetually obsessed with asking this question of myself since I was a little kid. Who am I? I have no idea. Where do I belong? I don't know. I have no idea. It's not with this group, this other group. And more importantly, what is my identity? Who do I appear to be to myself and to other people? It was very difficult as a kid because school was not such an open place and like family wasn't such an open place, and so instead I just spent a lot of time in my room making this. This is part of a large collection of porcelain animals that I curated in a room in my house. I wrote menus and made play food. And I even did the books for the restaurant sometimes on Saturdays. I would come in there and do like transactions. My parents said, "Why don't you go play with other people?" I said, "I'm playing with my friends." This is a big deal. This room is a huge fucking room in my mom's house. In fact, it was so good, you could have somebody come in there and move one of them, and I would walk in there and say, "He goes this way." And that's me. So when I learned how to use the computer, which was this amazing new device in our household that nobody knew how to use, I decided to plan for this room. And I used Microsoft Paint, and I was very specific about how this was going to be. And then I kind of liked it. I was like, "Ooh, I can draw pretty well on this computer thing with these pixels. Maybe I'll do a little bit more stuff." And I started to get more interested in these floor plan ideas and like structures, all very methodical and organized. Everything had to be just a perfect way. But I also really missed the animals from my story and the characters that I created in my head, so I started to draw those too. And I had all these different ways to draw them and different pieces you could put together to make different things. I even animated them, pixels at a time. And this was what I put on my college application to go to an Ivy League school in computer science and computer graphics. I said, "This is it." Yeah, that was not going to work because computer science is really difficult, and this is not computer science. So for the first couple of years of school, I was totally lost. I had people coming into my room getting A+ on their tests, and I was getting like a 27, which seems very strange. I thought I was so good at this stuff before. Nobody was doing this. And then I wanted to make sure I felt better, so I decided to code up a website, naturally, of my pirates. This was my greatest creation. Now anybody in the whole world could just go to this URL and see them. It was me online. It was awesome. It also taught me how to program, which was also cool. And so naturally, got a little bit better, a little bit more orthogonal and lines and grids. Then I started to be able to save and move data around on like blog-like stuff, and then have people like sign in and make like social networks. And then what happened? I got a job in Silicon Valley and went out and worked at all of these places. Which is bizarre because I came from this. And naturally everybody who does this goes to Silicon Valley to work in tech. That's not what happens out there. In fact, it was people who had been putting together computers since age 4, who had been coming out of the womb already writing Fortran. But I was really, really big on the idea of going there because I wanted to do something that created space for people to share, right? It was a safe space, much like my town. What's really interesting is that it was all centered around this idea of design, which I had come to understand was fulfilling a need that the environment elicits, which is to say that all design is context dependent. Every time we do anything, we're always in some kind of context, some kind of space, be it digital or physical, and design needs to understand that. So, you have this environment in whatever capacity. Let's go with the natural environment, the regular world, right? We've got the world. And then there's you that just gets born into it. and you need to get your needs met, which basically means you don't want to die, because, the world's a pretty scary place. It's got diseases, and predators, weather, and harsh conditions, and it's just kind of a mess. You kind of need a little bit of a buffer zone between you and everything else in order to make sure that you're protected. Some kind of defense mechanism, basically, some kind of protective bound. Well, what is it? Well, we've decided as social creatures that we are social by design, and so instead of living in the jungle alone as individuals, we actually just live together as people. And we've been so good at changing our environments as people that now most people live within other people. You don't have to worry about the jungle or watching out for a lion. You don't have to worry about that. It's all people. But that doesn't solve the problem, because that creates another problem. And that is, how do you communicate with these people to get your needs met? Because as you know, given the Trump-Sanders thing, among many others, people don't always get along. Seems kind of strange. We're all people, right? That's just, clearly not a lion. Why would it be so difficult for people to get along if we're all people? Well, this thing right here, this fucking little thing, is our sense of self. It's our identity. It's something that we need to have in order to have the community. It's our buffer zone between everybody else. It's our protective layer. It's our defense mechanism. We need it. But it's twofold. It's a mix of how we see ourselves and also how the community sees us. And the problem is that until we are able to be old enough to develop a stable sense of self, we're pretty much just at the whimsy of anybody around us who wants to mold us how they see fit. So what do we know, right? Some people have their identity crises in their 50s. That's a long time. I had mine in my 20s. I'm sure a lot of you probably had a little bit of it, if not the whole thing. If so, congrats, you're still here. But seriously, once you start to think about what is this thing, it occurs to me that all these years, fear was coming through me in the form of these stories and spaces, all to just basically make this. This is what I told people that I did. And by telling people that I did what I did, I just kept following the rules and getting up into, what some people would call success, I guess. Didn't feel like it because it was all based out of fear. When you have your identity, it's so built around you, and it's so well defined, and especially because we have so many great tools that help us do it, like Facebook, among others. But you're like, these are the things, these are the music I like, this is the people that I like, these are the things I like to do, this is me, this is my spouse, my relationship, my job, I have all these things. Then whenever you speak to anybody in their surrounding community, you have to speak through it. That's difficult because it's kind of a block. It means that you're coming at it with your own preconceived notions and own perceptions of what things are and what things aren't. And that's real to you because it's built in, it's your defense, it's your wall. So how can any two-person people actually communicate if there are these two walls? Makes it very, very difficult. So what if there was nothing? We have to be okay questioning hypothetical circumstances. Why not? What if there was no identity? What then? Then it would be an open channel to telling people whatever you wanted to tell them, whatever you felt like telling them. Seems pretty scary, right? You need that defense. You need to know what's going on. Okay, so do me a favor and close your eyes. Go ahead, yes, all of you. And just for a second, take a deep breath. Now picture yourself in an empty void, not a room, but just a void. It could be white, it could be black, it could be any color, whatever. But there's nothing in it, okay? There's nothing there. You're not wearing any clothes. In fact, you have no skin. You look down, you can't even see yourself. You got nothing. You have no school, no job, no apartment, no friends, no food. Who are you here? Does anybody know? Because you can't be any of those things. I can't be a designer in the void. You can't be an architect. You can't be a CMO. So in this space, right now, breathing, where are you? What are you? This is what I like to call a true place. Because this is unadulterated, if that's even a word, by everything else going on in your life. All the things that you're connected to, all the things you need to be, all the things you're trying to be. It's just you and your breath and your breathing, and you have that. And that is one thing you know for certain, is that you're here and you're breathing. That sounds like a pretty good place to start. All right, you can open your eyes. You are not your identity. You're just not. All the things that I want to be, or things that I wanted to be, or things that I wanted to make, or ideas I wanted to convey, or any of those things, I'm not that person. I'm not even this. I mean, this is the clothes that I wear, but sometimes I wear different clothes. And sometimes when I go to Burning Man, I don't wear anything at all. It's not down on any map. True places never are. This is the brilliant, genius, and terrible thing, is that out there in the world, you're getting all these signs and signals about how to find yourself. You need this to be happy. You need to do this. You need to do that. If you do this, you will be good. But in fact, if it is really a true place, there is no map because it is subjective to each and every one of you and your own identity baggage that you carry around. You got to go at it alone, on your own, into the storm. I did go to Burning Man, and I did experience this, and I have to say that it is definitely quite amazing because you're surrounded by nothing. Where else in this world can you literally go that's not man-made, that you're just encompassed by nothing? This young man and I were at Burning Man together, and we got stuck in a dust storm where he was just like that distance from me, and I couldn't see him. And in that moment, in that great expanse of everything, an idea which I had concepted here, but did not actually experience, it hit me hard, and it was like, oh, we're here. We're here. There's nowhere that we need to go. We're already here. This is it. And ever since then, I have been going about my life trying to be very present and appreciative of what is here right now. And let me tell you, carrying all that baggage with all those things, especially fear-driven, that was pretty difficult. It still is, but I'm doing it. Always coming from a true place. So instead of coming around, next step, what am I going to do? I was a cartoonist. You're like, no, I was an architect. Okay, no, actually, I'm a graphic artist. Yeah, no, actually, I'm a web developer. That's what I am. No, actually, I'm actually more of a designer, and designer is a broader term. And oh, really, I'm just more of a strategist. It doesn't matter. Okay, I am nothing. You are nothing. Everybody's nothing. Or we are everything. Why not? Better still, I would say, I am whatever I need to be as the environment requires. And this is a good way of being, because I never know what environment I'm going to be in, and I better damn well be prepared. You know, they say that luck equals opportunity meets preparedness. You can't always plan the opportunity, but you can maximize for it, but you can always be prepared. I am an improviser. Improvising seems to have a negative connotation. A lot of people get scared when they hear the term improv. They think, oh, I don't know how to perform. I don't know what to say. I can't think on my feet. I don't even know how to be funny. Well, it has nothing to do with that because that's not what the definition of the word is. It has nothing to do with comedy. It's literally just to make things from what is available. It's a survival mechanism. It's what it is. But it comes from your true place, not your identity. You have to let it all go. That's what's so difficult because people do not like to let go of their identity. They don't even know how. And so when you tell them to improvise, already they're thinking, what does that even mean? I have me. And you're like, well, no, you don't. So that's why we're talking about improv now. I spend so many years building social technology for people to talk to one another in more frictionless ways, and that did not feel good. And then when I came down from that high horse into the regular world where you can actually talk to people, I realized that that was the real problem, is that people just really didn't know how to talk to one another. So the number of tools didn't really make a difference. I'm sure you guys have friends, some of whom you text, and they text like full sentences with periods and punctuation and capital letters. And sometimes they just, use like a you or something. It's like, it's not the technology, people. It's not the technology, it's people. So technology is not really the problem, it's just this other thing. So remember I said that design is fulfilling a need that the environment elicits? Well, social design, which is the area that I focused on, is fulfilling a need that the social environment elicits. What is the social environment? The social environment is all of you. This is a social environment. That circle in there that you were in there, that was a social environment. And yet, You learned everybody's name in your circle. And that felt safe, didn't it? Now you knew their name. Now you associated them with a little bit of feeling in your body movement. Safety and belonging. Let me put that back. Safety and belonging, connection to others. It's a safety thing. The reason we have the identity is because without it, we're not going to feel safe. We need to grab onto something. But if you can feel safe with other people, being your authentic self, well then suddenly you don't really need that identity, do you? You're ready to go. But the problem is that there isn't safety in other people because nobody knows how to talk together. But through really clear conversation, you can create safety. It's like flirting, you know? You meet somebody and you have like a little bitty rapport that kind of builds on each other. And eventually you get to a place where you're just feel really good. Like, wow, that was really awesome. I feel really good right now. It might look a little good too. I feel good. Oh, I should get this person's number. That's called safety. That's what that feels like. And it can be done with anybody in the whole world at any time if you understand how to do it. And that's what I'm going to tell you now. Sounds good? Okay, these are the 5 C's of clear conversation. Sorry. I might go with the flow more now, but I still need to have order inside. Okay, the first one is to be certain. This is a tough one, because what this means is you're approaching believing that there is safety and certainty to be found. You're giving people the benefit of the doubt. This is like 99% of the problems in the world. Nobody goes in listening. They just don't. They go in with a preconceived notion of what they want. They go in with their identity, and they try to validate it before even learning what the situation is. So if you put your identity in check and you walk in saying, look, I don't really have anything, I'm feeling one way, but you know what? I'm going to work with this situation. We're going to find certainty together. That is good. Now you're willing to listen to that other person. The second one is perhaps even more important and also more difficult. It is about being calm. It is about breathing and listening, taking in your context, being present in the moment, no thoughts, no fears, no identity, just. Ooh. I have a big problem. I don't usually breathe. A couple years ago, I realized it was causing lots of anxiety attacks, lots of eating problems. Breathing, calm, it's good. The other great thing about being calm is that oftentimes you will know what to say because it is handed to you on a silver platter by the other person. And if you don't listen, if you're not calm, you can just totally miss it. And that can be a tragedy sometimes, because it is so beautiful when it is just handed to you and you say, oh, that's the joke. Or, I was already thinking that. You said it, not me. You know, that's what they say in business. Always make sure that they say it, not you. Then it's their idea. Well, sometimes they do say it, but then if you say it over them, then it ruins the whole point. Be calm. Be calm. Okay, the next one is, of course, when you do speak, make sure you be constructive. It's about saying yes. You've heard this before, I'm sure, through Tina Facebook and a number of improvisers, but it's the idea of being constructive with your words and not negating. You take what is and you exist in it. It's fine. If somebody says there's a table here, well, then there's a table here. There is. I've agreed with you, let's say, for saying there's a table. And now there's some safety because we both know there is a table here. And the more that we construct the situation, the more we know we're on the same page. And that's what creates the safety. We're connected. It's good. But again, if you're not calm, and if you're not certain, you could just walk right through it in your scene and be like, oh, whoops, sorry. No good. Always say yes. And lastly is be confident. When you do share something, make sure you use all of you to communicate it. You have hands, you have body parts, you have a voice, you have facial expressions, you have tones. Some of you have accents. Whatever you can, you got to bring your spirit and passion, energy, and excitement because it is contagious, turns out. Because people are not doing that by default. You're walking around like this. Nice, Nick. I'm like, no. If you want to be nice, do something very specific that people remember. How many of you felt that people's names were a lot easier to remember when they had a really grand gesture and presence about them? Totally, right? You've seen people out in the world that are doing that. It's really weird. It's like this weird thing. Like once you do it, people start to follow that, and it's great. And you're like, oh, I just spoke up. So with that now, we're going to try a second improv game that will make use of these principles with the people that you already met. So if we could just get the group of people together again, those 4 groups, the same people, we'll go from there. Okay?